I think it's 2 p.m. and we are all excited to hear what our speaker today has for us. So just to share with you a brief intro about Zindi. Zindi is a social enterprise working together with different communities and also different companies in order to mobilize a vibrant community of data scientists in Africa. And we are here to also educate you on matters, curriculum vitae kind of matters, resume, just for career development as much as we also want to equip with the technical skills. So we are joined today by the wonderful Jennifer Oyelade, who will introduce herself. Let me not even start with her CV, but she will introduce herself. And all I ask from you guys is just to take part in the presentation. Feel free to, and or if she has requested you to unmute, you can raise your hand and she can pick you if you had a question or you had something to share or a comment, and she can best advise you. So please be engaging in this session, take notes and enjoy the session. Again, it's meant for us to learn about how we can be able to build our careers in the data profession side. Yeah, so without further ado, I think I will let Jennifer introduce herself, tell us how she even got into the field and how she got to interact with data scientists, and then she can take us through the art of CV writing. So Jennifer, to you.
Thank you so much, Rose. So Zindians, it's a pleasure to be with you guys on the platform. So as Rose said, my name is Jennifer Oyelade. I'm an international talent acquisitions recruiter. So I've recruited across the board, Europe, Middle East, and Africa in various disciplines. More recently, the IT and the data science space. I've been in this profession, I would say, about coming up to 18, 19 years. So it's been a very wonderful journey. I fell into recruitment, actually. I think it's based on the fact that I'm very much a people person. I really love to see people grow and progress in their career. So working with Zindi has been an absolute pleasure. I've, interacted with so many people already on the platform. So this is just a great way to really help, guide you guys into being the best you can be. And also to make sure that any questions that you have in terms of your career development, in terms of really differentiating you guys from, other professionals, that's really what I'm here to do. So please feel free to ask any questions. There is no question that is a silly question. I believe that every question is of relevance, and we're all here to help each other. So by all means, have your questions ready for me at the end, so that in case I might cover your answer in the middle of the session, it'll be great to kind of gather all the questions at the end, and I'll be able to go through absolutely everything in so much detail. So with that being said, shall we get started? So as we said, the topic is called the art of CV writing for the data professional. My screen's not moving. Okay, yeah. So, the first thing I would like to say is that your CV is like, it's what I say is the document that speaks for you in environments where you're not able to speak for yourself. So before an employer meets you, it's actually the CV that they see first. So it's up to the CV to really sell your expertise, so that once they look at that CV, they can say, oh yes, I want to meet this person. I want to meet this professional, because based on their CV, I believe they've got a lot to offer me. So the CV is the key to unlocking so many doors for you professionally. So it's really essential that you always update your skill set on your CV as you're progressing throughout your career. Now, in terms of how a CV should really look, a CV should really tell a story about you. So I should get to know you on paper. And when I meet you, it really should be to tick the boxes in terms of, are you a culture fit? Or, let's just see if we're ticking the boxes. So your CV should give the employer at least a good 80% of what they need to know about you on a piece of paper. So in terms of what we're going to talk about today is how a CV should be written, how it should talk about yourself explicitly, and how to really sell yourself on paper to not just get the interview, but not just to attract the hiring manager, but to get the interview where you can really showcase your skills. And also remember, guys, that every experience is valid. So even as a student, you would have done some experience even within your alumni groups or within your communities at school or even outside of school. All experience is valid, whether you were paid for it or you weren't paid for it, as long as you've been engaged in any professional or any form of activity, please do not forget to put it on your CV because all experience is valid. So again, so once we have a fantastic CV, what interviews are now there for is to, as I said, really get to know you. And in order to really sell yourself on a CV, we're going to use something called the Weak Mythology. I'm going to speak a lot about the Weak Mythology very, very soon. But what the CV does, if it's written correctly, 60% of the interview should be taken care of just by your CV alone. Because the way a CV, as I said, a CV should be written in a way that gives me a lot more detail about you as a professional, your capabilities, your skill set. So if I've written it out correctly, then 60% of the interview would have been done. The rest of the 40%, as I mentioned, would be your soft skills. So your communication skills, how you engage with the interviewer. And the other 20% is the skill set. I mean, is your ability to, blend in with their culture. So can this person work for us? Can they imbibe our culture in the workplace? That's the remaining 20%. So just to recap, so 60% should have been taken care of by your CV if it's written well using the Weak Mythology. The other 20% is soft skills. So how you communicate with your hiring manager, how you communicate within the interview. And the other 20% is, can this person fit into our working culture? So what is the Weak Mythology? The Weak Mythology is how you break down your experience using these 4 key points. So when you write a CV, so first and foremost, I will debunk a rumor that your CV needs to be 2 pages long. I don't agree with that at all. And I'll give you a classic example, or should I say in a scenario. And I'm going to call upon Anthony Mipawa. Can you unmute for me, please? Anthony, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. I'm here.
Good. Nice to meet you. I just picked a name randomly. So I wanted to give this example and I wanted your true opinion. Okay.
Yes.
So if you are Elon Musk, amen, and you have a $1 trillion business, right? And your first job, your first point of duty is to employ a finance director. Now, this finance director is going to look after your money, your profit and loss, make sure you have internal processes in place. He's going to manage your $3 trillion organization. And I walk in for an interview with you and I give you a 2-page CV, would you hire me?
I think that is not enough to prove that you can do what I want you to do. That's not a proof.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And exactly, because as you said, 2 pages cannot tell me how much you have done in order to deem you qualified to manage $3 trillion.
Yeah.
Correct? Exactly.
Yeah, correct.
Thank you. I just wanted your input on that. Thank you, Anthony.
Okay, thank you.
Good. So exactly, as Anthony says, there is no real proof. There's no real track record to show me that you can manage such a huge responsibility. And you need to look at your career as the same thing. If I want a very well-paying job and I want to show an employer my expertise, I can write a very lengthy CV to show my exposure. Now, some people may be thinking, okay, so how can I write a very lengthy CV with minimal experience? If you use the Weak methodology, I can guarantee you that you'll be able to do that. So what is the Weak methodology? So W stands for what you do. So in your job, what exactly do you do? What are your responsibilities in your job? Then H is for how do you do it? So what systems or tools are used? So for example, I write, I use Tableau to do data visualization because A, B, and C. So you've told me what your responsibility is. So what it is you actually do. You're telling me the systems that you use and what are the eventualities. E is for eventualities. So what is the result of what you have done? And A being an achievement. So what did you achieve by doing your responsibility and by using certain systems and the eventuality of what you did? So what did it result into and what did you achieve? And the time frame in which you did it. So achievements doesn't necessarily have to be what an organization says is an achievement. It can actually be a personal achievement to you in terms of, maybe you've done something in a record-breaking time, or maybe an employer has asked you, or you did a competition, or an employer has asked you to, data mine some information, and you did it in one day instead of 4 days that you thought that it could do it. So any achievement, it doesn't have to be something that the organization says an achievement. It can also be a personal achievement to you, because what you think is not an achievement, an employer is probably looking for that exact same thing. And then the time frame in which it took you to do it. So do you data mine weekly, daily, or do you use Python to scripts on a weekly basis? So telling people not just your responsibility, but also how you do it and why you do it and what it achieves or what the outcome is very important. And if you do that for every job or every experience that you've had, whether it's in paid employment, whether it's in university, whether it's an internship, if you write a CV using those bullet points in this format, you will find that you will have a very lengthy CV and a very detailed CV, so that instead of employers calling you to say, oh, hi, Frederick, have you used Python before? Or hi, Lena, have you used SQL before? A lot of the information that they're looking for will be written clearly, concisely on a document so that an employer can make an informed decision about your expertise. So here's a classic example of how a bullet point would look like using the Weak methodology. So I've captured data and input into an MIS system to ensure the accuracy of the information collected when analyzing and developing reports. This reduced time, manual input. As a result of this, I demonstrated my ability to be methodical, diligent, paying close attention to detail. Now, even though it looks like it's a very long bullet point, the fact is that you can still write it in a shorter form, but I just wanted to give you an idea of how the Weak methodology can really expatiate on what you did. So I've broken it down. So W is for what did you do? I captured data. How did you do it? You used an MIS system. And why did you use that MIS system? To ensure its accuracy of the information. What was the eventuality? It reduced the time spent on manual input. What was the achievement? You were able to be methodical and diligent, and you do it daily. So I've just summarized what I do, why I do it, and the results in a very short but very detailed format. And if an employer sees this, they can see my thought process behind exactly what I do, right? So imagine doing this kind of bullet point for every responsibility that you have. By the time you've done that, you will have a very rich and in-depth CV that explains your methodologies, it explains the way you think, the way you work, step by step, for anybody to see. So the next topic is psychology and the CV. So this is my favorite part, guys, because as I always explain when I do webinars like this, is that CV writing is an art form. It's something that is an actual skill, because, you know, everybody has a CV, but the way you write the CV really engages a hiring manager and it gives them an idea on your expertise without actually saying a lot. Wording is very, very important. It plays a very big part in portraying your excellence as a professional. So, for example, even the order in which you put bullet points on your CV is also very psychological. So, for example, if I say leading a team of 4 data scientists, automatically, by using such words, I'm showing you that I'm at a level of a manager, which means that I have responsibility. So the word leading shows authority. It shows the fact that, you know, I have the expertise to be able to lead other people. And the thing about a CV and the order in which the bullet points come in is that as an employer, it takes us 3 to 5 seconds to determine whether we're going to read a CV. So the way in which it's ordered, the way in which the bullet points are labeled, gives us an indication of whether we're going to read that CV or not. So the most important or the most integral parts of your role should be always placed at the top, right? It should always place at the top. And we also have to be careful about making sure that your achievements and your responsibilities don't get muddled up. Because what we find is that if you put your achievements with your responsibilities, the hard work that you put into your work doesn't stand out. So what I would suggest is you have a section that's about the responsibilities using the Weak Mythology, and then underneath that have a section called achievements and have separate bullet points for that. Now, how to determine what is a responsibility and what is an achievement. So a responsibility is exactly what I gave you with the wheat example. So inputting data to reduce operational tasks and stuff. That is what you call a responsibility. But what an achievement is something like reduced operational costs by 20%. So how to know what an achievement is, if it saves money, if it increases money, if it saves revenue, anything that is an action like that is considered as an achievement. So always create a separate area on your CV for those achievements, because they need to stand out to sell you as a professional of what you're able to achieve. So as I said, so just to recap, responsibilities are the tasks that you do on a daily basis, why you do them, and their results. Your achievement are things that have, you know, impacted the business, things that have, you know, made you stand out as a professional. So I did mention this earlier in terms of the wording that you use. So I'm going to go in a bit more detail in the kind of words that you need to use in order for your experience to stand out. So I mentioned leading a team off. So leading a team, as I said, shows people management skills, it shows leadership, it shows accountability. So anything that you do using the word leading, it's important to add, because again, it shows that level of authority. Then managing is a different type of leadership, but it shows that your ownership of projects. So for example, if your employer gives you, a data mining project, or he gives you a task that requires you to, you take an ownership of part of a project, use the word managing, because that is you as an individual taking ownership. So you're managing a process, you're managing data, you're managing projects. All of these kind of things are the words you should use because you've been given a responsibility. Now, supervising, I know the words sound the same, but they're quite different. So supervising means you're overseeing something. So you could be overseeing projects, overseeing people, overseeing processes, anything that requires you to be in a very managerial type of position. These are the kind of words you should be using: leading, managing, supervising. These are how you should be starting off your bullet points, because it shows your level of expertise. Now, the word developing, which is very, very ideal for, professionals like yourselves, and students like yourselves who will want to get into the data science industry. Data science is very much a development. You're using developing skills, because whether you're manipulating data, whether you're extracting data, all of these things are a process that you develop. So there should be a lot of words that, like developing, created, implementing. All of these things are actions that you do within your workplace, or within your studies, or within your internship. So these are the kind of words you should be using to demonstrate your expertise, because by showing that you're developing, it shows that you're creative. You're actually creating and developing a skill. Implementing means that you're doing, so you don't just create and pass on to somebody else. You're seeing the whole process through. So these are the kind of words that you need to be using to show your expertise in this level. Yeah, and again, especially for professionals who are more data analytical, who also, analyze data, you need to use words like analysis, because analysis shows that you're very critical. You're a critical thinker, you're methodical. You look at projects, you look at tasks with an analytical mind before you implement what it is you do in order to be successful. So using words like analyzed, analytics, prepared, provided, these are things that you do within your role. So using words like this, again, it gives the employer the impression that you don't just do for the sake of it, you actually have a thought process as to why you do these things. So using these words will be great to help you express yourself better on your CV. Now, in achievements, these are the words where you would use reduced. So maybe you reduce the workload of a professional, or you reduce the time spent on a task. So anytime you're writing about your achievements, you use words like reduced, increased, upscaled, expanded. Increased means that you've actually made something better. By implementing, the different works that you've done, you've increased, whether it's increased productivity, you've increased volume. Anything that uses the word increase shows that you've improved something. Then when we're talking about upscaled, so upscaled is usually used very much in expansion projects. So projects that get bigger and wider is where I would use the word upscale, because it means that you've worked on something and you've gotten it from maybe 0 to 50 to 50 to 100. When you're working on anything that determines growth, use the word upscaled. Anything that you are working on that required expansion. So maybe you've worked on projects in, Nairobi, and you've also worked on projects in South Africa, and you've also worked on projects in Nigeria. I would call that expanded, because you've expanded into other regions. So if you've worked on projects in other countries, make sure that you write that on your CV. The more international exposure that you show on your CV, the more credibility, the more substance it gives your expertise. So your CV is your bragging rights, guys. Go to town. This is the place where you sell yourself. I've had a lot of people who say, oh, here's my CV. When I get into the interview, then I will explain to them exactly what it is I've done. But if your CV is not selling yourself, there won't be any interview. So you've got to use your CV as your bragging rights to sell yourself, your expertise, everything that you have done. And also do this, guys, on your Zindi profile as well. Use your Zindi profile as well to, to share all the competitions you've been on, to share all the work you've done, whether it's been on the Zindi platform or otherwise. Use your Zindi platform, your Zindi profile as a way to show your expertise, because we also use the Zindi profiles to source for roles for our clients. So yeah, be active in updating your profiles and your CVs. So what is also essential just wanted to make sure it's on the same page. What is also essential when you're writing CVs is to show your understanding and experience of the businesses that you are working with. So for example, if you're doing a project that's in the healthcare sector, mention the sectors that you're working in. So show the business, your understanding of the sector. So for example, working within the data space, you can be working in healthcare, you can be working in IT, you can be working in financial services. The sector is very, very broad, and you can find data professionals in any sector you can think about. So what makes you stand out on your CV is if you mention the organizations you've worked with, you've mentioned the sectors that you've worked in, and you've also mentioned the understanding that you have of those sectors. So for example, if I've worked on a rural development project, so I say made a data analysis of a rural development project in Nairobi, which allowed me to, so once you start talking about your understanding of the sector, it gives your CV a lot more substance, because what that's telling the employer is that even though you are great at, in your various areas of data, but you also understand how that data affects the business that you're working in, how that data affects the sector. So for example, the healthcare sector is booming at the moment. And if I want to work in the healthcare sector, I want to show my employer that based on the data I've extracted from A, B, and C, I can tell you that there's a percentage of people that are working in the healthcare sector that are doing C, D, E, and F. Do you understand what I mean? So it's making sure that your sector experience is very obvious in your CV, because as an employer, we love to see data. I know that sounds a bit ironic, data, but we do. We love to see data. We love to see facts and figures. We want to see the data, the projects you've worked on, how have they impacted the sector, or how they've impacted the business? What experience did you take away from that? Those are the kind of things that need to be put on your CV and in an interview. So, because the truth is, guys, I know you may have heard that, employers don't look at CVs that are too long. If I make it too long, how do I know they're going to read it? You're going to hear it from me, guys. Employers spend millions and millions of dollars on recruitment every year. And a bad hire is more expensive than a good hire. So what that means is that they will take their time to make sure that they employ the best hands, because they don't want to make that mistake of hiring somebody who can't actually deliver. They have to let that person go and recruit a brand new person to unfix what could have been fixed in the first place if they had hired the right person. So if any organization is serious about hiring, even at entry level, even at senior level, even at medium level, whatever level you are, any company who is serious about hiring will take the time to go through that CV. As a recruiter, I can personally tell you that I haven't submitted any CV less than 3 pages to an employer, and that's even at a student level. Because if you really sit down and think about the things you do in university, think about your Umoja, marathons and hackathons and all of these projects that you engage in, if you use the Weak Mythology, you can write a lot more about them than you're actually doing currently. So always keep in mind that the more information you give, the more an employer gets to understand you as a professional, understand your capabilities, understand your expertise. Okay. So, yeah, so another thing I also wanted to touch on in terms of the projects you've worked on, also if you've worked again with teams that are not even in your region. So maybe you're sitting in Nairobi and you've worked on projects in Nigeria, or you've worked on projects in Sudan, Egypt, or Europe. Always make sure you mention these on your CV, because what you're showing the employer also is that you've had experience working with cross-functional teams across different continents. What is also showing your employer that you're also open to remote working, because that is the future of the workplace today. So really make sure that you not just sell yourself in terms of these are the projects I've worked on, but also talk about the teams in which you've worked in, also talk about the environments in which you've worked in, also mention the clients in which you worked in, because for all you know, that one client that you mentioned could be the experience they're looking for in that company. So for example, they could say, oh, I would love somebody who has worked on a financial service product. And then you write on your CV, oh, I've worked on a project with, with Rand Bank, for example. As an employer, I would look at that and say, oh, wow, yeah, he's had financial service experience. Let's call him on board. So the more you leave off your CV you're reducing your chances of being selected or shortlisted for an interview. So guys, I really want you to take on board that your CV is your bragging rights. To go to town, don't leave anything out, because that thing that you might leave out could be exactly what a recruiter is looking for. So please also make sure that you are very clear, concise, have a lot more to give in terms of what you put on your CV. So what I would like to do is open up the floor for questions. Because I feel that to keep the session nice and interactive, I want you guys to be able to ask me any questions, and I can give you real life scenarios that can really help you and increase, obviously, your chances of employability, soft skills and what you need to develop yourself. So I really want to kind of open the floor to you guys so we can have a very interactive session. And yeah, I really want to hear the kind of issues you've dealt with, and so that I can give you some real life advice. So, Rose, would you like to help me kind of moderate some of the questions so that everybody feels very much included?
Yes, sure. So is there anyone with a question? You can raise your hand and I can be able to unmute you to ask your question. So as we gather the questions, maybe I ask mine to start off.
Okay.
So yeah, I've always been wondering the difference between the CV and the resume. How different are those two, and what needs to be more explaining of my personality and an individual being a data scientist than the other?
Okay, so I've got the first part of the question. So the first part of the question is, what's the difference between a CV and a resume? The truth is there is actually no difference. A CV is just what the Europeans call a CV, and resume is just used by Americans or used in the African continent. There's really no difference between a CV and a resume. They're actually exactly the same thing. It's just that they're called different things in different places.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah. I think, yeah.
And I didn't hear, what was the second part of your question?
Oh, I thought there was a difference. I was asking which one should be more reflective of me as a data scientist compared to the other. So if they're the same, I think it means that the CV should be the one. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, it should, yeah. So as I said, CV, resume are the same thing. All of them should be a reflective of your experience as a data as a data analyst. So in terms of what I would say is talk about systems you've used, projects you've worked on, any courses that you've done, or even if you haven't even finished them, you can still put them on your CV and write in view or currently studying, so that the employer knows that you are taking the time to do a lot of professional development courses to support your expertise.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I can see a question from Adam on the
Okay.
chat. He's asking, what about a fresh data scientist with no prior experience? Like what should they include in the CV? Yeah.
Okay, so in this case, you look at transferable skills. So if you're a fresh data scientist with no prior experience, then look, first and foremost, what you can do in terms of building your CV is volunteer. Volunteering at various organizations, even if it's a family business, all experience is considered as experience. And what I suggest is when I mean by focusing on transferable skills, so for example, being a data scientist, you have to be very analytical. You have to be very methodical. So in places where you've had an opportunity to do so, whether it be as I said, within a family business, volunteering, or in any kind of projects you've done studying, you can actually highlight on the attributes you have as a person that will be ideal to use as a data scientist. I hope I've answered that question.
Adam, maybe you can confirm on the chat if that question was answered. Yeah.
Okay, so I think I see one from Chisomo.
Yes.
Yes.
So he mentioned, or she mentioned, some CVs include a section on hobbies or interests. How do you feel about things like this to showcase your personality? And if you're good with them, how do you suggest to do about it, or what to do about it?
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Sorry, Rose. Could you say that for me again?
Okay. So they mentioned that some CVs include a section for hobbies and interests. So how do you feel about things like this to showcase your personality? And if you are good at them, how do you suggest to go about it?
Okay, so hobbies and interests. This is a good one because, for example, even when you're writing hobbies and interests, you need to be a bit careful about hobbies and interests. So for example, if I am, so for example, recently, not on the Zindi platform, it was somebody else. I saw on the CV that someone wrote, I like partying. So I was like, I found that quite funny. I like going out with friends, I like partying. Now, if you are working in the public, for example, public relations or advertising or something more client facing, that might work to your advantage. But if you're dealing with things like data, dealing with things like finance, it may come across as, okay, will this person be able to, how do I know on a Sunday night they haven't gone partying on a Monday morning? They won't be able to do their task. So in terms of your hobbies, I mean, stick to hobbies that, again, reflect you as a person, but I think what you need to focus more on your technicalities, but obviously putting down your hobbies probably in a section towards the bottom can also give an insight into your personality. But I think your core focus really should be on your skill set and what you can deliver. I hope I've answered that question.
Yes. Thank you so much. Chisoma, you can confirm that. We also have a question. Where would you place any data science competition on your CV that you have won or placed high on the ranking board?
Okay, so what I would do, where I would place this is I would place this before your professional work experience and after your education. So what I would suggest is, and I would actually include in the next session, I will actually include a format of how the CV should look like, right? So I will, when the second part of this, I will share what a CV, in the order a CV should look like. But what I would say is that it should be profile at the top, which is like a section that has, you know, just a brief intro about yourself, and then your education. And then after your education, then you should then have projects you've worked on, competitions you've been in. All of that should come after education, and then your work experience.
Great. I believe that's well answered. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
There's another question. Would you include non-data science related jobs in the resume so that it's no time hold? For example, working at a restaurant during studying.
Well, this is a good question. Now, it really depends on how much experience you have. I mean, the fact that it shows, yes, you've been in employment, but unless, I mean, you can put it and put that on your CV, but as part of your responsibilities, you can put in transferable skills that can still be related to, you know, data. So for example, if I'm working in a restaurant and maybe I'm dealing with, for example, at the end of the day, I'm cashing up and everything, you use your analytical skills to ensure that, you know, the money tallies up at the end, the transactions that you have made are equal to the money that was banked as revenue. So that's like data that you're analyzing, right? So either way, you can actually include roles that are non-data related, as long as you can show your ability to have those transferable skills, such as, you know, as I said, balancing up, making sure that, you know, you're taking information correctly. So you can add a data element to any role that you find yourself in.
Great answer, Jennifer. Thank you so much. I feel like that was really well put. In relation to what you're doing as a data scientist, there are some jobs that you can transfer some skills in that you are not doing data science. Thank you so much.
Most definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and another question from Alex is there a specific CV format that is more appealing?
Yes, if you guys can give me a second, I might even be able to pull up one briefly now. Actually, let me see. Okay, let me find my own one so that I'm not breaking any data and confidentiality rules. Okay, let me see. Apologies, because I think it will be really interesting for me to show, so that even as some questions are coming up, it would be great. Jennifer, okay, actually, I think I might need to, yeah, I think I need to find that. Yes, do you think I should do it now, or what do you think, guys? Because I can actually do it in a session. I think what I'll do is I'll do it in a session so I can walk you guys through it at the same time.
Yeah,
I think that will be better. Yeah, so that I can walk you guys through it. So we can actually have a session specifically on the CV, and I can walk you through the format.
Yeah, I think that will be good, and we'll have maybe people doing it on their end, and in case they reach a blocker, they can inform you. Yeah, that will be better.
Okay, perfect.
There's also another question, I think more of a follow-up to that. How do you write a data science resume that complies with the application tracking system? Could you please share an example?
Okay, so I would even tell you guys, this is a fantastic question that you brought up, and I will tell you guys something. I'll give you guys a very insightful secret. There is no format in beating an applicant tracking system, right? Because I'll give you an example. what we recruiters look for are not the basic things that you will think that we're looking for. So for example, if we're looking for a, what would I say? If we're looking for a data analyst, for example, if you write a CV that says, I'm a data analyst and I do analytical things on data and I'm a data analyst, and I'm, you know, if you carry on writing data analytics or data analyst, or even if you write it 25 billion times, that doesn't necessarily mean that your CV will be at the top of our search list. So what we search for is specific skills that we know that are necessary for the role. So for example, we might search Tableau, we might search Python, we might search, you know, we might search SQL, we might search, we search for the unobvious and not the obvious. So you can, as I said, you can put data analyst or data analytics all the way through your CV, and somebody could just, and I could search from Python, and that's the person who's going to be at the top of my list. So rather than focus on putting repetitive words to get to the top, ensure that your skill set and the technical skills that you have and the software that you use and all of that good stuff are the things that you have on your CV. It's not by your job title that we're going to find you. So and as a recruiter, you don't know what we're looking for. So the only thing you can do, the best thing you can do for yourself is to ensure that your technical skills come out, even the projects you've worked on, because I might type in Python financial services data. I could do that, or I could search, Nairobi SQL, IBM design thinking. I mean, I could type in whatever. So focus more on your technical skill set. If you want to, you know, if you want to come up at the top, focus more on your technical skills rather than being repetitive.
Great response, thank you. I think we'll not stop putting up too much data science words there, hoping to be the system.
Yes.
Okay, there's another question from George. How can you bring expertise or experience from other IT areas like ERP, CRM, NBI, data governance, project management to support your new data science skills or AI ML skills?
Oh, that's perfect. I mean, you can definitely do that because within IT, everything you do in IT is systematic. So because what you're doing is systematic, for example, if you're working on a CRM system, the fact is that by inputting data, you're already using data. Even in enterprise resource management systems, you're already using data, business intelligence, data governance. All of these things are, even though they're processes, they are still data influenced. So what I would suggest is that you highlight on your skills the area of data that falls into these spaces within IT. Even as a software developer and you're scripting, you still use development skills in data. So a lot of the things you do within the IT space are already data engineered. All you need to do is focus on looking at your job title, looking at what you do on a daily basis. You'll be able to dissect the things that actually are data related. So what you just need to do is emphasize a lot more on, so for example, business intelligence and artificial intelligence, they're very much related. It's just a case of bringing out the skill set that, you know, that can link to, you know, data specific roles. Project management, again, is the same thing because even within data, you're still managing projects. So looking at the actual the technical side of that data in project management. So it's very easy to bring out those expertise if you highlight more on the data element of those roles. I hope I'm making sense. I hope I answered your question, George.
You're making a lot of sense. Thank you for that, Jennifer.
Oh, I'm glad.
Is there anyone who has another question? I think I've covered the ones on the chat. If you have a question, maybe you can unmute and share it.
Yes, please, by all means. It'll be great to hear As I said, I'm here really to help you guys in any way that I can. And even after this session, hi Solomon, even after these sessions, you know, with a follow-up, when you're giving feedback as well, also you can mention topics that you would like me to touch on, and we can also I can also develop webinars to touch on those specific areas. So I can see Solomon raised a very good point here. Will there be a session for data science interview preparations? Definitely, I can work on that. You know, very much so, because even with interview preparation, that's also a skill set. And what I can give you just quickly off the top of my head, in terms of when you're having interviews as a data science professional, if you have what I call the STAR methodology, you will excel in terms of answering questions. So when I mean STAR methodology, things like S is for situation, talk about the situation, and then T is for task. So what were you asked to do? And A is for achievement. So what did you achieve? And R is for, you know, realization. So what did you learn? So if you implement these 4 things in an interview, that will help you be able to show your expertise. So for example, the situation was I was working on a project that required me to data mine for a financial services project. I was tasked in extracting the data to move it around to be able to determine forecasting, profit and loss, and so on. And what I achieved was I was able to make sure that that information was readily available, which helps the business soar and scale up by 20%. That's just off the top of my head, an example. So that's what I will do in an interview. If they've asked me, give me a scenario where you worked on A, B, and C. But again, I'll have a whole session on this, guys, but it's just for me to kind of give you that little insight in case anybody might have an interview today or tomorrow or during the week. So just make sure that every answer you give in your interview is very methodical. Start with the situation, the task that you were given, what you achieved, and how did that, what's the realization of that on the business? I hope I've answered that question.
So there's another question from George. I think it's targeted to you, Jennifer. Are you available for further or additional consultation?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, George. By all means, stick to the Zindi platform and you'll be seeing more of me.
Yeah, Jennifer will be here to assist you, most especially with the upcoming events. Also, be sure to join in, ask any questions that you might have, and you can follow up with her, and she's always willing to help. So,
yes. Yeah. And you guys can also, you know, you can also connect with me on LinkedIn as well. So in case you have any questions that, you know, you're thinking, oh goodness, I forgot to ask her this, or maybe you have a more personal, not personal, but you have a more in-depth, you know, question or scenario, also feel free to reach out to me as well.
Okay, thank you. So Jidalum has another question here. I wrote on a profile that I'm a data scientist, yet I applied for a data analyst position. What are the effects of writing my role on the profile? What should I write, or how should I write it so that I can apply for a data scientist or data analyst post?
Okay, so what I would suggest you do is that if your role is multifunctional, so you know you do more than just analyze data, I would say that you should explain it explicitly so that not just using the word data scientist because it sounds better, but using it in a way that shows your full expertise. So for example, if you analyze data, you do the visualization on dashboards, you manipulate data, you do various elements rather than analyze data, then if you explain that explicitly, technically you are a data scientist. You've got to be able to show when you're for example, at the top page of the CV, a section called profile, you can say, I am a experienced, or I'm a data professional who has experience analyzing large data or big data sets within data warehousing, So the more you explain about what it is you do outside analyzing data, already gives an employer or the reader the impression that you're more than just an analytical person, but you also know how to manipulate data as a data scientist. I hope I've answered that correctly.
Yes. Yeah, I think Jade alone, you can confirm that. But thank you so much, Jennifer, for that. We can see some good sentiments that Jennifer, your presentation was amazing, and we thank you for that. The first is asking, how best would you synchronize your CV with your cover letter for a particular job?
I'm glad this question's come up, because the thing is, if you keep, I'm glad you, in fact, I'm absolutely happy you've mentioned this, because this is probably going to be right for all of you guys. Is the truth is, you can't, if you write a cover letter for a particular job, you're going to find out you have 55 billion cover letters, right? So the truth is that what you need to do is, rather than tailoring your CV or tailoring your cover letter to a particular job, focus on your strengths and your skill set. Because the truth of the matter is the CV only gets you in the door. What you then have the task of is selling your expertise in an interview. So you have to get it right the first time, so that you won't get disappointed and you won't get deflated. So what it is focus on your skill set. So sell yourself and your strengths the best way you can. So for example, if you're a data analyst, really sell yourself as a data analyst and other skill sets as well that you have that you're strong on, but make sure you really stay focused to your core, because that's what's going to get you the job. That's what's going to get you the interview, and that's automatically the end result. The end result of everything is to get you your job, get you that dream job, get you the job. That's the end goal. So in order to achieve the end goal, you need to really focus on your skill set, your additional expertise or your additional soft skills, everything that makes you an all-round better professional. So I think that's really the best way to go. I hope I've answered that.
Is it mango or orange?
I hope I've answered that correctly.
A moment, I try mobilize.
Okay, have you done? Yes. Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yes, I think Wilberforce has confirmed that. Thank you. Yeah. And have you done recruitment in Kenya? On average, how many applications does a data analyst or data science job attract?
Okay, so yes, I have done recruitment in Kenya. I'm currently doing it as we speak. Now, in terms of how many applications, the truth is, if after the session you guys go back and write not just your CV, but update your Zindi profile using the Weak Mythology, you'll probably find that you are getting more you're getting more, more of a higher success rate. So it would be a case of, automatically it will minimize the applications you do because you're getting a bit more results. So don't look at it in the sense of, okay, let's, churn out as many applications. Once you have a great CV, then you will find that different organizations look for different things, and that's just the truth. And I'll definitely touch on that in the next section of what our employers looking for in a data professional. But different employers are looking for different things. So the only thing that and what you can use to stay true to yourself is to focus and highlight on your expertise, do more professional development courses, look outside of the box in terms of your, career development opportunities. What can I do that can differentiate me from, another data scientist or another data analyst or another BI professional or another AI professional. So it's all about thinking outside of the box on what other skill sets that you can bring to add to your CV to, be able to guarantee more of a hit rate in terms of your application. So, I mean, take these notes, write, a very detailed weak CV, and I'm sure you'll definitely get a lot more response.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jennifer.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
we'll definitely. Sorry, I'm laughing. I like from the answers I hear the presentation is a bomb. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We will
Yes,
share recording.
yes, and David will definitely share the present. Rose will, and I will definitely share the presentation with you as well. And the great thing is that the presentation is actually written in a lot of depth, so you'll be able to, even though I've done a lot of speaking, the presentation also has a lot of depth into it. So it's easy for you to also mirror what I have said in the presentation. So it's yeah, it's very easy for you to, it's very easy for you to pick up. And then I'm also at the other end of the computer if you have any questions as well. What's the other one? Oh, I've seen a very long one. Oh, right. Is there any? I think I saw a question.
Yeah. The question is after that is, do you help people get work in UK?
Unfortunately, it's something that we don't do. However, I mean, what I would suggest, I mean, in terms of roles is maybe, I mean, some companies do remote working, but in terms of, the kind of physical moving of professionals to the UK, unfortunately, we don't.
Emmanuel, I think Jennifer has answered that question, but I feel like remote working supplements all the ticks. You can just work from anywhere, from wherever you are, and even work in the UK. So that's something interesting. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I'm talking to you guys from the UK right now, so I think that goes to show that we are all a global village.
Yeah. So there's a question from Solomon. Do you have any sites that you can recommend for coding interview preparation, especially for data science?
Do you have any sites? In terms of sites, I'll be honest with you, there are no sites I can actually recommend in terms of interview preparation. But what I would suggest is that the thing is, and also with data science, you need to also realize that every company has their various ways of vetting, I guess, data scientists. So some are a lot more technical driven, some are a mixture of, some are system based. So you have to do an online technical test before interviewing. So, and again, different companies are looking for different things when they're, they're testing for data scientists technically. So what I would suggest is, in terms of your expertise, is just, participate in a lot more hackathons, participate in a lot more of, competitions, try and get your hands-on involved with a lot more projects, because the more hands-on experience you have, the more you'll be able to bring to any interview process that you go through. So I will say, especially within the data space, a lot more practical know-how will definitely help you in terms of interviewing. And then I can then teach you a lot more about, the soft skills and interfacing with hiring managers, and, the more of the one-to-one type of interviews. So that's what I think the best answer I would give, because nobody can predict what another company could be hiring or looking for in terms of interviewing. Okay, thank you, Solomon. Well answered, thank you.
Yes, any more questions?
trying to scroll up. I don't think. Oh. Yes, I would. Okay, I see something that I missed from Paul. Yeah, I mean, by all means, what we'll do as well, I'm making notes of this as well. And Rose, if you could also help me make notes of it, of all the kind of things that have come up from the session. So what I've picked up on is definitely a session where I'm showing you a CV format. I've also picked up a case of, we'll also have a interactive session where, where you can share, a layout of resumes that you have done, so I can help you critique them. We'll probably work at Zindi, we'll probably work behind the scenes and see how that would work so that everybody gets, their own time. But I think, I think it's a case of what I would suggest is what you've learned from the webinar, try and use the Weak Mythology to develop your CV, and then probably in the next session that we have, anybody who has done this and also updated their Zindi profile, then we can have a live session on and critique it. What do you think, Rose?
Yeah, that will be a really great idea. We'll just have people maybe sharing the screen one at a time when they register, and they'll mention maybe they'll be able to share the CVs that they have come up with. Yes. And we can have like a lineup, and we can give you also some time to just look through it. Hopefully they'll have submitted it earlier on so that you just give feedback. Because again, it will be easier if you give feedback prior the session, during the session, but have a look at it prior the session. Yeah.
Exactly. And also, guys, I also know this session would be for people who have attempted to do their CV using the Weak Mythology, and also those who have updated their Zindi profiles. So so it's mainly for people who have done the two. So my advice would be to use the session to update your Zindi profile and work on your CV so that both of them are in line. And why we're really emphasizing on the Zindi profiles is because those are the profiles we also use when we are recruiting on behalf of our clients. We use your CVs and our Zindi profiles to work with. So it's really important that you update both of them.
Yes, and just to emphasize on that, please ensure even if you are already as Indian, please go back to your profile. It's updated. We have new questions or new data that we need so that we can be able to better place you with job opportunities, as Jennifer had mentioned, and also help you in creating a better CV. So please ensure that you have filled in all the details required for your profile, and you'll be able to see, like, when you download an app, it usually tells you 90% done. So you'll see that circle completing, and then that's how you know your profile is complete. So ensure that you do that. For those who have not been conversant with Zindi or you haven't interacted with Zindi before, I'll put in a link on the chat. So you go to zindi.africa and you sign up as a Zindian. So you sign up as like you're signing up for a platform. You put in your details, your email address, and you just start off. And then you'll go to the profile page or the profile side. I don't know if I can share my screen on that, but yeah, should I share on how to do that, Jennifer?
Oh yeah, so shall I stop sharing so that you can show them?
Yes.
Okay.
Just a moment so that it's simpler for those who are starting off. I've seen a lot of questions for those people who haven't interacted with Zindi before. So let me just share with you how this site is. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can, yeah.
Okay, so this is a normal, when you sign up, this is what you'll be seeing. So this is where you get to compete with to compete on hackathons and competitions. You'll find them here. Here is where you get to learn tutorials on how to get started. This is our community, and this is the job area. So I'll just show you where you go to the profile. So on this side, on this page on this platform, you go to my profile. Let me just put this down. So this is your profile. So this is mine as Rose Delilah. So it's 33% complete. So you need to edit your profile and edit profile. So here you'll get to see more details. Tell us a bit about yourself and then your career. My career, this is what I have as my experience. I have a diploma. I have gone through training. These are my strengths as a data scientist. I'm good at data visualization. You fill it out to there, and then you ensure that you have saved. So please ensure that you fill in all this so that you are able to capture your data, and in the long run, we'll be able to assist you. So this is where you go, and you'll ensure that this part is filled. I hope that has helped those people who haven't interacted with the platform before. Just go to zindi.africa and you'll be able to get, I'll just put the link here.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Does anyone else have any other questions for me? Rose, and also, yeah, oh, you just took the words out of my mouth. About to say the link will be great.
Yes, I was working to get it. So you can just click on it, create a profile, and we'll be sure to share with you amazing recommendations in the future of jobs you can apply to as an entry-level data scientist or as an advanced data scientist, and also competitions to help you scale up and build a portfolio. Yes.
That's great. And as I said, just to kind of, really emphasize on what Rosa said, the more competitions, hackathons you're participating, the more practical experience you're getting. So for all those, I think I remember someone saying someone who doesn't have no data science experience. So you can start building your experience by participating in hackathons, because that also is experience, it's valid experience. And it also shows that you're proactively learning to develop yourself in that space. And, Zindi do a lot of, apart from the competitions that they do, a lot of incentives. We partner with a lot of well-known global organizations who are looking for professionals like yourself to come on board and solve real-life problems. So there's nothing better than working on hackathons and projects that are actually solving problems that actually exist. So please be very active on the platform. And as we are growing and as we're doing more things, we're working to guide you along the way from a career development perspective.
So before I even maybe wrap up the session, anything, Jennifer, you'd like to share as you finish?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was I really enjoyed interacting with all of you. I love the fact that, you guys are all spread all across Africa, which is amazing. Again, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Also share your feedback with how you found the session. If there's anything, again, that you would need us to touch upon, so that as I'm building content for these webinars, it will be specifically to what you need. So, so please feedback on today's session. And also, just as I said, reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. I'm very active there. So share with me any concerns, and I look forward to working with a lot more of you over the next forever. Over the next forever. I couldn't think of the next one. But yes, I look forward to working with all of you.